Hey everyone! In this 3-part series, I'll show you how to turn any instrument into something that sounds like a synth drone. In part 1, I'll reverse engineer 2 examples that I actually used on my upcoming album with the Nic Gaumond Octet. We'll explore how I turned a saxophone into this. And then how I turned a piano into this. This is very easy to accomplish and takes very little technical knowledge, but just because it's easy doesn't make it any less valuable. Doing this can easily give you ideas for new songs and sounds, and is another great way of getting yourself out of writer's block. For now, let's get started with saxophone. Enjoy. P.S. I had some technical issues with the camera, so you might notice the colors changing a little bit, but there's not much I can do about that. Whoa. So here's a saxophone that I've turned into a kind of synth drone, and I'll reverse engineer it to show you how I got here. So as you can already tell, it doesn't really sound like a saxophone at all. So let's just go backwards and see how we got here. So first things first is we'll take off the effects to see if it sounds any more like a saxophone than it does now. Not really. So obviously we've got some warping going on here. So I'll undo the transpose, see if that helps us. Sounds closer, but you can still tell that it's quite slowed down. So let's turn off the warp to make it go back to its original length. As you can see in the bottom here, I've only used a small portion of the actual full clip itself. So I'll extend it so you can see where it came from. So obviously that's still not a saxophone, and you can probably tell that I reversed it. So let's unreverse it. So you can tell that there's some kind of reverb on there, and that's already baked in, so I can't take that off to show you. But this is what I started with. So obviously it already has some sort of character to it. And obviously I just used the last note, and that's just because I wanted to have an actual drone where it's just one note. So let's see how it would sound if we use the passage that has more notes. So I'll undo a bunch of times. So I'll just extend the clip a bit more so you can see what it would sound like if I did want to use something that has more notes to it. So you'd have to slow it down quite a bit to make a passage that has a lot of notes seem like it's a drone. So that's why I used the last note. You could still use this for something else, and in fact I did later, but that's not what we're going to talk about today. But it could be a cool backdrop for like a background texture for an ambient piece, which this is. So basically the moral of the story is you just slow it down. And then to hide that it sounds like a saxophone, you could put effects on it, like this one's a delay. So if we just add that in. Already that sounds quite a bit different. And if we do some EQ stuff to make it sound even more different, then you're getting further away from it sounding like a sax. Just with these two things and changing the transposition and the warping, then you could really take a saxophone or any instrument and make it sound like something else. So let's check out another example. Whoa. So I think that this one sounds even more like a drone than the previous one, which is pretty cool. So it's actually just a piano, believe it or not. So we'll just reverse it the same way as last time. So first of all, let's just take off the effects. So it's starting to sound more like a piano right now. So let's check out what's going on the clip. Same thing as before pretty much. So we'll just remove the warping. So now we're getting pretty close to being able to hear what was actually being played. So let's remove the transposition. So this is pretty much the starting point here. So you probably didn't hear all those notes when you were hearing the final product. So obviously you can hear that he's just arpeggiating a power chord. It's pretty surprising that you can actually turn this into a drone. So let's undo some stuff and go back and see what's going on with the effects. So here's how it works. So first of all, some EQ. So by removing a bunch of the highs, you're going to get rid of the attack. So that's how we can make it so that we don't actually hear all those notes that he's playing. Not to mention that it's also much slower. When I put the highs back in, then you can sort of hear the attacks come in now and again. Most of the information that allows you to distinguish instruments from each other is actually found in the attack portion. So by removing the attack, you're pretty much hiding what instrument it is for the most part. So let's hide that even more with some more effects. So I find a chorus effect is actually really effective in terms of really changing the sound and making it sound like it's kind of in a chasm, which is often what I find is desirable when you're creating synth drones. So let's turn on the chorus. So notice how it goes from being right in the middle and in your face to kind of everywhere and far away. And then we can increase this effect of distance and the character of it sounding like a chasm by putting some reverb on it. Whoa. So that was pretty easy, right? This should be enough to prove to you that you can take any piece of audio and turn it into a drone. And just in case it isn't, you can join me next week as I turn this upright bass track with a lot of bleed into another drone. My name is Nic Gaumond. Milk your music.
Subscribe!